Hi guys, my name is Jay and welcome back to the Python learning course. So, in the previous video we talked about the history of Python, what Python is, and we also compared Python to other programming languages. But now I really want to talk about the main part of the concept that we want to learn about is setting up the environment. And what we're going to do today is we're going to be setting up the environment, we're going to get the interpreter, and we're also going to get the IDE. So let's jump right into it. So first, we're going to be setting up the interpreter. Now, most PCs like Windows and Mac doesn't come with a prepackaged Python. So what we have to do, we have to install Python onto our PC. So what we're going to do is go into a browser of choice, such as Google. So I'll choose Google Chrome, and we just type in Google. And now we're going to go into the search bar and we're going to type in Python. So let's type in Python. And now you're going to be getting a link like this at the top. So let's click on this and it'll take you to this home page and it'll give you different features and tabs. And the tab we're interested in is the Downloads tab. Now on the Downloads tab, if you're a Windows user, you'll be using the Windows tab. But if you're a Mac user, you'll be using the Mac tab. Since I have a Windows PC, I'll click on the Windows tab. And it will lead you to this. So Python has two different versions. It has a Python 3 and a Python 2. And in this course, we will be using Python 3. So let's click on that. And we'll scroll to the bottom. And we gotta pick either one of these if you're a Mac user or pick one of these if you're a Windows user. Now for Windows users, there is two versions. There's a 32-bit and a 64-bit depending on your PC. Since my PC is a 64-bit, I'll be choosing this file. But I'll show you how to check what your PC is. So to check that, we go to Settings. We go into System. And we go down to the About tab. And there are all the specs of the PC. So right here on the system type, it shows a 64-bit operating system. But if your computer shows a 32-bit operating system, you'll pick the 32-bit file. If it shows a 64, you'll pick the 64. So I'm going to go ahead and click the 64-bit. I'm going to download it. I'm going to run it, and we'll install the interpreter. And click yes. And it will install. Now the next thing we're going to have to install is the IDE. And an IDE in Python is basically a program that allows programmers to easily write code for a specific language. For Python, it's PyCharm. And for Java, it will be something like Eclipse. So let's go into Google again. And let's type in PyCharm. And we will be clicking on the first link. Click on the PyCharm. And you'll hit the downloads. And for this course, we will be using the community version. So hit download. And again, if you're a Windows user, Windows, Mac, Mac. So hit download. And PyCharm shall install onto our PC. Now, this is just a little preview of what's to come in future courses. So it's just to give you a little idea how a Python application will work, how we could write Python applications and how they run on an IDE. So let's open up PyCharm since we launched it. And we type in PyCharm. And there it is. So let's click on it. And it shall open. And again, I would like you to just follow along. It might look a little tedious at first, but it's very, very simple once you get the hang of it. So we'll wait for PyCharm to upload onto our PC. So you get something like this popping up that says PyCharm, and it will load up. So it will give you that whiteboard at the bottom and should open up a code editor. And depending on your PC, it might take some time, but so now it's just going to take us to this empty page, and I want you to turn your attention to this page file right here. So we go to the upper left corner, and we're going to be clicking on the Files button. And we want to create a new project. So let's click New Project, and let's give a project name. So for this case, let's call it Hello. So we'll create it. And we click Create. And so now it's going to load up an environment. So it will be creating a virtual environment. So that took some time, but now we have something. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to create a new file. So let's create a new project. We want to create that. So now that the project's created, let's create a new file. So we go into New, let's go into File, and let's call this file Hello World. So now we have a blank text code editor. And now this is where we'll be writing all our Python applications and all our programs. So with any new programming language you learn in computer science, we always start with the basic programming language, basic programming code, and that is called Hello World code, right? So this code is going to basically display a message called Hello World to the console. And in Python, we use a function called the print function. And you could tell it's a function because it has the two parentheses. And in those two parentheses, we pass in something. And in computer science, we call that a parameter. So the parameter we want to type in today is a string hello world. So let me take you to it. And we're going to type in print. And remember, all the things you pass as parameters must be in the parentheses. So right now, let's type in the string hello world. And again, a string must always be in a single or double quotes. So let's go to the run. This will run our file. So we click run, and we want to run the hello world file. So let's change this to hello world py, and this should display hello world in the console. And there we go, we have the message. Now let's say I want to print another message called goodbye. So we go print, and we pass in a string as a parameter. So let's type in goodbye. And in this case, we're going to get two messages when we run. We'll get hello world, and we'll get goodbye. So let's hit run again, and hit. And there we go. Got two messages, hello world and goodbye. Now, besides strings, a print function could take in other data types such as integers. Now, integers are basically whole numbers that we see in everyday life. You may have seen it at a math class or at a grocery store at the cash register. So we want to print the number 2. So we type in 2, and with integers, we do not have to write the quotes. We just have to pass in the number itself. So let's run this, and this program should give us the number 2. And there you go. We got the integer 2. And now let's say I want to print the integer 6. So type in 6 and run it. And now we should get 2 and 6. And there we go. They both printed to the console. Now with numbers, we could also add them together. So we could add two integers together to get us a grand total. So let's say we want to print 2 plus 6, just like in math. And this means we're adding the integer 2 to the integer 6 to give us the result of the integer 8. So let's run it, and we should get 8. And there we go. So besides two numbers, we could also pass in a couple of other numbers, like infinite numbers. So let's go a little PEMDAS here. 2 plus 6, let's multiply that to 8, and let's divide it by 2. And now with the multiplication and division, we always use the star for multiplication, and for division, we use the backward slash. So again, this will follow PEMDAS. We'll do the addition and subtraction after it does the division and multiplication. So let's run it, and we should get 26 as the result of this. So it followed PEMDAS, and it gave us the result of 26. Now let's go a little bit more into something else that's cool with Python. Let's go into something. Let's say we want to write multiple print statements and change the values. Instead of changing the values all the time, we could change something that we call in Python that stores data, and that is called a variable. Now, the cool thing about a variable is it allows programmers to test different values without changing the print statement. So let's say, for example, we have print 1 plus 6, and we have another statement that says 1 times 6. Now, we know the result of this is going to be 7 and 6. But let's say I want to change the values. Let's say I want to change it to 2 and 7. Instead of having to change the values here manually, I could write something called a variable. And I could store values to the variable. So let's create a variable A and assign it to a value 1, and a variable B and assign it to a value 6. And now instead of printing 1 and 6, 1 plus 6, let's do A plus B. And instead of doing 1 times 6, let's do A times B. And again, these are the corresponding values. So this will give us the output of 1 plus 6, which is 7, and this should give us 1 times 6, which is 6. Now let's say I want to change the values to let's say I want to change the values to different numbers. All I have to do is change the value of the variable. So let's say I want to change the value to 2 and the value to 7. So now A is assigned to 2 and B is assigned to 7. And again, this will be 2 plus 7, which is 9. And this will be 2 times 7, which is 14. So let's run it. And it should give us 9 and 14. 2 plus 7, 9. 2 times 7, 14. So that's pretty much all I wanted to cover for this video. In future videos, I will be showing you other examples where we could use variables to store strings, and how we could take those variables and combine two strings into one. So that will be into more of the future videos, and I hope you stay tuned for that. But other than that, I hope you have a good day, and I hope to see you soon.